I have 7 o'clock. We will call the town board meeting for April 7th, 2025 to order. First item on the agenda is the approval. Patrick?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, from staff, we only have one addition, no deletions. Please enter consent agenda item at 5J, the Bel Air Beach lifeguard contract.
And then I would just make a note that Chad has looked it over and you don't see any issues with it?
Consistent with all prior contracts.
Okay. Board have an issue with that?
No problem. I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
A second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, item 3 is approval of payment of the bills. Steve, you sign off.
I signed off. Move to approve payment of the bills.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item 4 is approval of the previous minutes from March 17th. Anybody have any corrections?
I saw none. Did you?
I didn't either.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the prior meeting.
A second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, we have 10 consent agenda items with the one we added. Everybody okay with them?
I had no issues.
I need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right. Item 6, this is Old Business North Oaks Joint Powers Agreement. Chad, are you going to go over this, or Patrick?
I can start us out, and then the brains can kick in. Mr. Chair, Board, this is an amendment to, well, I guess we wouldn't really call it an amendment. It's just kind of an edit, more so than anything.
That's the way I describe it.
Okay. The previous joint powers agreement that we had signed on to with North Oaks did not have the rate at which we would be charging for services in our water to North Oaks. Based on Utility Commission recommendation as well as staff recommendation, we are suggesting that the rate of 125% of our Tier 1 water level be the going rate for providing service to the city of North Oaks under this current JPA. Mr. Attorney, anything else?
Yes, the reason it's not an amendment is the fact that North Oaks has yet to adopt the joint powers agreement. So until they do, there's no effective contract. So we're simply setting over a new contract. Even though we did approve this earlier, but with the exception of 125%. So that's why we're doing it this way.
So does that mean we're authorizing to sign it tonight, or authorizing to send it over as a draft
No, we're authorizing to sign it.
to sign it tonight? Okay.
Because I think you want to send this over as an executed, or at least executed on the part of the township.
Okay.
Oh, Patrick, will that go to them tomorrow?
Yeah. Yes.
Because they've been kind of dragging their feet on this. And I don't think they can really blame us on this one, because we told them what it was going to be. We just didn't give them the final. All right, board okay with this?
So the effective date is when it's executed?
Yes.
Okay. Right, no, I have no problem with it.
All right, then I need a motion to approve the JPA.
I'll move to approve the JPA as noted in the packet with the city of North Oaks.
A second?
Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving on. Item 7A, we have a public hearing for Whitaker Street. I need a motion to waive the reading.
I'll move to waive the reading that was properly published.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Then I need a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll move to open up the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Are we up?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, supervisors. Before you tonight is a application for a preliminary and final plat for the proposed RM Innovation subdivision. This subdivision is located on Otter Lake Road, just up the street here. It has multiple addresses, 1596, 4316, 4336, and 4400 Otter Lake Road, as well as 0 Whitaker Street. The applicant recently acquired in 2024 the properties that were formerly owned by Water Grumman. These properties were part of a plat called the Water Gremlin Addition plat, which was approved and recorded at the end of 2012. The plat combined 8 former lots into just 3 lots. In December of 2012, they also received approvals to create a tax increment financing district, also called a TIF. It's TIF District number 22, and that TIF district is set to expire in June of 2040, so it has quite a ways to go still. The applicant is looking to replat most of the former Water Gremlin Addition parcels under a new plat with a new name, proposed as RM Innovation. The applicant would clean up issues that happened in the 2012 plat, give it a new name, and separate the buildings into 2 parcels. So the north facility would be on what is called Lot 1, and the south facility would be on what's called Lot 2. Once the TIF district expires, the applicant surveyor notes that the proposed new Outlot B would be added into the proposed Lot 1 via a combination or lot line adjustment. The reason this can't happen now is due to TIF district regulations saying that lot lines and sizes cannot be adjusted while still in the TIF district. The applicant also is proposing to vacate and replace a previous drainage and utility easement and create new easements with new drainage and utility easements that follow the proposed lot lines. In the staff packet in front of you, you'll see one excerpt from the 2012 plat showing 3 separate lots: Lot 1, Block 1, Lot 1, Block 2, and Outlot A. Lot 1, Block 2 is that tiny little corner at the north end of your map. That will not be included in this subdivision. You'll also see a meets and bounds property on the southwest corner of the map that will be included in the proposed subdivision. Lot 1, as I said, will include the north facility, which was built in 1953, and Lot 2 will include the south facility, which was more recently built in 2013. And that small vacant lot shown as exception on the original plat will be incorporated as part of Lot 2. Outlot A remains vacant, and Outlot B is created to combat an issue with lot lines, which we will get into shortly. The request appears to meet ordinance requirements, such as the subdivision ordinance requirements that defines it as a major subdivision. This would be identified as such. The outlots are defined within Ordinance 15, Section 2, as a lot remnant or parcel of land left over after platting, which will be intended as open space. The ordinance states that all remnants of lots below a minimum size left after subdividing must be added to adjacent lots. The proposed outlots A and B do meet those requirements. The request also appears to meet most zoning ordinance requirements, the use, lot size, and lot density requirements. As noted previously, the 2012 plat resulted in the north facility building encroaching partially into the original Outlot A. Proposed Outlot B is to remedy that issue of the building encroaching. So when the TIF district does expire, they'll hopefully combine that so it's no longer an issue after 2040. Proposed Lot 2.
Before you move on,
Yes,
that
please.
portion that goes into the Outlet A, is there a reason they just didn't make a straight line across there? Why'd they make that little bump out?
Could you
It's just
state that one more time? Sorry.
It's a small round bump out,
Outlot B, proposed Outlot B.
right, out of the south part of Outlet A. I mean, Lot A, Lot 1.
Yes. That would be a great question for the applicant when it comes time why it wasn't cut straight across and made like a long rectangle, but it is to remedy that lot line
Right.
encroachment. Looking at proposed Lot 2, there is a slight, you could call it encroachment into the right-of-way. The lot line currently goes into Ramsey County right-of-way. The county did mention that this should be remedied. However, the TIF district restricts the lot line adjustments. So as a potential condition of approval, we would recommend requesting that right-of-way dedication be done in 2040 upon expiration of the TIF district. The county did okay that recommendation. The township subdivision ordinance also requires parkland dedication when any major subdivision is done, or a fee in lieu of the actual dedication. The land requirement is 6% of the site, while the fee requirement is $6,700 per acre required. The fee in lieu of the parkland dedication is $23,624.70. There's no recommended future parks identified in this area. Therefore, the recommendation is that the applicant pay the fee in lieu. The project plans, as usual, were forwarded to all agencies and staff. The DNR had no comments. The watershed district requests that the Lambert Creek branch easement stay in place to allow maintenance access when or if needed. Ramsey County, as I said earlier, confirmed that the dedication for Otter Lake Road would be needed upon expiration of the TIF district in 2040. The city of White Bear Lake and the building inspector for White Bear Township had no comments. And engineering and public works had a few comments for us. The town would need an easement on the north entry point to the south property to access the holding pond if the owner would fail to perform any needed maintenance. In this case, a maintenance agreement would be needed to be prepared for Lot 1 and 2. It has been drafted, so that is remedied. And originally, the vicinity map on the proposed plat was incorrect. However, this was also remedied. The Planning Commission reviewed this request at their February meeting, and the commissioners reviewed the previous plat and discussed any proposed plans with a representative of the applicant at that meeting. The commissioners recommended the board approve the request with the following conditions. The vicinity map, the proposed major subdivision shall adhere to the plan submitted with A, B, C, and D corrected. All corrections have been made. The applicant shall submit a maintenance agreement for lots 1 and 2 regarding stormwater improvements in the subdivision. This has occurred and the attorney has reviewed it. The applicant shall pay the required park dedication fee. This has been paid and received. The proposed subdivision shall acquire all other applicable requirements from local, county, state, or federal. The proposed subdivision must adhere to all other regulations, and the applicant shall pay all fees and escrows associated with this request. Does the board have any questions?
Steve, you were at the...
I was at the planning commission, and no, I think that's met everything that they asked for, and it's all been resolved. So,
Yep.
no.
No.
So realistically, this is just house cleaning, just to clean up lot lines? So there's going to be no additions, deletions to buildings, parking lots, landscaping, nothing?
That's my understanding, yes.
It just
Yeah.
seems like the only issue was the TIF district.
Yeah.
Oh, just seemed like the only issue was the TIF district. That was out of the ordinary.
All right, the applicant's here. Would you like to come on up and...
Certainly. My name is Bruce Keys from Foley & Lardner Law Firm, appearing on behalf of the applicant, which is WBL 4400 LLC. And as you indicated, and as we presented to the Planning Commission, it really is just trying to clean everything up. The applicant is very interested in trying to make sure that they're in compliance with everything. And there were some things like the building encroachment that the applicant wanted to address, WBL 4400 wanted to address. As to the curve out, the reason that's just a bump out is the surveyor just recommended following essentially the building line. So if you look at it as an overlay of the building onto an aerial photograph, it makes more sense than just as a visual bump out as it's depicted.
Okay, it seems like every time we do any kind of lot rearrangements, they don't like these little funky things. They want nice, clean, straight lines. I think for in the future, somebody's not trying to figure out these spots, but
Yeah.
I guess it's beyond my power, so. Steve, any questions, applicant?
I do not.
Nothing.
All right,
Thank you very much.
all right, seeing as how there's no other questions from staff, I would, and the board, I would look for an opening, or a motion to open up for public comment.
I'll make a motion to open the hearing up for public comment.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If there's anyone here that wants to speak to this issue, pretty simple. Major subdivisions are basically moving lot lines around. Going once, going twice. Oh, come on up. You have to give your name and address for the record.
My name is Teresa Tingerthal. I live at 1711 Whitaker. And I'm here just to ask in plain terms what this proposal, what I'm hearing here is this is just about cleaning up lot lines. This is not new building. It's not like new residential. It's not new factory. The existing land. So just looking for clarification on what is being proposed.
Right, actually, if you see it on that screen, that's basically what they're doing. Cleaning up these smaller lots just to make it more manageable, so when the TIF district runs out, these lines are defined.
Okay. Is there any proposal to put in more residential
No,
or any more buildings at this point? Okay,
No
thank you.
zoning change, nothing like no use change.
Okay.
Simply cleaning up the lot lines.
Okay,
and when this was done, you wouldn't even, except for some surveyors running around, you wouldn't even know they're there.
okay. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? All right, I'll have a motion to close the public portion.
I'll move to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, what's the pleasure of the board? We're looking for a resolution for the major subdivision.
I'll make a move to pass resolution for the major subdivision for, is it under the new name or under the old name?
It's a new plat.
So it's under the name of RM Innovations?
Subdivision, yes, that's the main plat.
Do we have to include the staff recommendations?
Yeah, to include the staff recommendations as noted in the packet under the TKDA.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion made second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, moving on, item 7B, this is White Bear Lake Flex Space. Can I handle this one too?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This request might seem familiar. It's gone through a few different meeting processes over the last few years. So the applicant is requesting an amendment to their existing permitted use standards permit to allow additional uses on the property. All of the uses are permitted within the industrial zoning district.
Wait, you know what? I got to,
course.
I need a motion to waive the reading.
I'll move to waive the reading that the hearing was properly published in the newspaper.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then I need a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Not that I want to get out of here in a hurry or anything.
No worries, thank you. As I stated, the applicant is requesting to amend their permitted use standards permit, PUS permit, to allow additional uses. All of these uses are permitted by the Township zoning ordinance in industrial district. The uses proposed are light manufacturing, offices, building materials sales, enclosed in buildings, offices, workshops, storage buildings, no outside storage, catering and food preparation studio. The previously issued PUS for this development only had warehouse and warehousing as allowed uses on the site. The applicant is also requesting a major subdivision approval for a common interest community or condominium plat, condo plat for the property. The CIC would turn each individual unit into its own parcel for tenants or users to buy and own. Shared common spaces on the property would be managed by an HOA, a homeowners association. A condo plat is unique where it is approved by the county. It goes to the county first. It does need approval by the town board, which is why it is in front of you today as a major subdivision. It is considered a major subdivision because each unit is considered its own property. As I said, the development has been part of a few prior reviews. It was initially reviewed in June of 2023 and approved at the July 2023 meeting. Then they applied for a permitted use standards permit for their flex space use, and that was approved and granted in August of 2023. The Planning Commission also reviewed this in April 2024 for a revised site plan, and the board approved it in May 2024. As I stated, the permitted uses for this zoning district are all met. There are no issues with that. The only thing to note is in performance standards, the zoning ordinance sets a minimum for parking in section 7.6.1. It's shown on table 1 in your staff report. For industrial, for example, they need one parking spot for each employee on the maximum working shift, plus 1 for each company-owned vehicle, etc. For this property, that would total about 130 stalls. For offices, it would total about 324 stalls. And for warehousing, it would total about 65 stalls. So that would be if each use was its own, like only that use on the property. Whereas the tenants of this property may have multiple mixed uses in there, so it might not be a total of 324 stalls, of course. The PUS does only approve 68 parking stalls on the site. So they'd have to do a mixture of these uses. It would not be all just one. In the permitted use standards, section 9.3.4, it outlines 8 different criteria listed before you in the staff report. If you'd like to go into detail with any of those, I'd be happy to. However, based on the applicant's submittal, those criteria all appear to be met. As for parkland dedication, similar to the previous request we saw tonight, there is a fee in lieu of actual parkland dedication that is recommended. Since no future parks are identified in the area, that's a fee of $4,632.73. This request was sent to all staff and agencies that may have a say in this, and no comments were received at the time of the report. Staff are reviewing the declarations and agreement for a maintenance and stormwater facilities. The Planning Commission reviewed this at their February 2025 meeting, and the Commission recommended approval of both requests. The request for amending the permitted use standards to allow multiple uses, and the request to approve a major subdivision for that common interest community, that condo plat. These would be 2 separate resolutions with 2 separate lists of conditions of approvals. Staff recommends approval of the amendment to allow the uses as listed: light manufacturing, offices, building material sales, offices, workshops, storage buildings, and catering food preparation studio. The proposed uses shall match those listed under condition 2 of the permit. The applicant shall adhere to all other conditions of the current permitted use standards permit, that's 2024, and the applicant shall pay all fees and escrows associated. The staff also recommend approval of the major subdivision for that CIC plat. The following amended conditions are recommended. They shall pay the park dedication fee as listed in the staff report, and they shall pay all fees and escrows associated with the request itself. Are there any questions regarding this application?
Steve?
Under the, when it was light manufacturing and offices, I kind of had an understanding what that actually entailed. But when we get into these offices, workshop, storage buildings, not outside storage, catering or food, those buildings, if there is a business that wants to buy into that space, because these are purchased
That's
units
correct.
now. So if they have to change the way the structure looks, is that they have to come back to us? Because I don't want to see exhaust pipes out of every side of that building, I guess is what I'm going to say. So
Yeah, any amendments, any amendments to the building would require a building permit
Permit, okay.
and any other processes like electrical, or if they're majorly changing it, that may be covered in the permitted use standards permit.
I can't remember, so. And so they have to come before the planning commission or the board for those changes.
My understanding, yes.
And then each one of these units is going to be a independent tax parcel for
Yes.
the owners? Okay. Say that, no.
Was there, I guess the parking, back when I was still listening to this, was going to be an issue. Is that resolved? I mean, is there going to be, depending on, we're holding the parking to at one point?
The parking allowed per their last amendment is 68 parking stalls on the site.
Okay.
If they want to increase that at all, it needs to be another requested amendment that goes before the commission and
Okay.
the board. Does that answer your question? Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
There's really no room for that though, is there?
To increase it,
Increasing the parking?
I do not see that as a possibility. However, they'd have to workshop some things.
They haven't constructed all the buildings.
I know.
So, I mean, I suppose they could modify their layout.
Well, but this, designating all these plats with a PID, they're gonna have to, even with the buildings that aren't up, aren't they, Chad? Aren't they still gonna have to identify a parcel?
Well, the floor plans would identify the
Right.
parcel, correct?
So if this is a final plan, I don't see them changing anything, which means I don't see them adding any parking spaces.
Well, keep in mind that they don't have all the buildings up yet. Right now, they can only create floor plans for those buildings that actually exist. Future buildings would be a new set of floor plans.
Okay, but back to my question then, if the buildings aren't up, are they still gonna get a PID?
No, well, the remaining land would have to have its own PID.
Right. So then they're gonna have to come back to us when they put those buildings up, those two remaining buildings?
The same process will follow again. They have the right to file the floor plans directly with the county without our approval. But use, that has to come through the township. So the floor plans, they can file without obtaining town board approval. Use, as CJ pointed out, that's a different question. They'd have to come back and amend it again.
Okay, so it still miss me. The buildings that aren't there yet, it's just gonna be one PID for that remaining parcel until the building's put up and they can be divided into individual parcels?
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
which means it's gonna come back to us for those two buildings.
Right, I mean, standard practice with condominiums, when they do this, if they don't build all the buildings at the same time, they will create a condominium for the initial set of units, and the future units, they'll have to come back and amend their declaration to create those new units. They'll also file new floor plans. What they'll do is they'll set aside as outlots the location of future buildings.
All right, and then, we don't have a CIC in the township. This is something new for us, right?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so I'm,
Well, actually, take that back. Any of the townhome projects that exist in the township that were created after June 1st of 1994 are CICs.
because this is the first time I've ever seen this acronym for this.
Well, that's because I don't think you have a condominium in White Bear Township. You have planning and developments, townhouses. And townhouses are different because townhouses are lots themselves. They're actual physical lots. These are just basically cubicles of space. And so when you say, I can't think of what some of the Westwood, that you approved the plat on because that was actually creating lots. But again, those lots were part of a planning and development. And if I remember correctly, they were built after 1994, so they would be under 515B, which is the CIC statute.
All right, so if it, technically, this is a CIC, but now we mentioned HOA, are they combined or does one supersede?
No, an HOA, okay. Common use communities, which would be townhouses, condos, cooperatives, which again, we don't have any of those, any cooperatives. When you create a CIC under the statute, you create it by doing three things. One, filing a set of floor plans. Two, filing a set declaration. Actually, the declaration comes first. The declaration comes first, and the floor plans are filed. They're actually, floor plans and the declaration are filed simultaneously. The bylaws, which are documents which actually govern how the association works, is a separate document that's not recorded. And the association has to be created under 515B CIC statute.
Well, I'm just concerned that because this is somewhat new for the township, HOAs sometimes come and go. So, and are we required to see this HOA agreement before we okay this?
The HOA is actually built into that.
I think that's all I had. Steve, was there any talk of limiting how many commercial uses are out of here?
No, there was no conversation regarding the number of, or types that were there.
I mean, how many units we got here?
60? I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to see
57, it looks like.
businesses in here.
Well, I mean, the general purpose was for storage, but people have shown interest in putting other uses in there, and that's why they came back to the planning commission saying, we have some business potential, and these are items that would be allowable, and so we want to amend to get to that.
Well, Chad, this is probably another question for you then.
Sure.
Can we put a maximum of how many units can be converted into an actual business versus a privately owned storage unit?
Only if the zoning code allows it. And I don't think the zoning code, as far as I know, does not allow it. All the zoning code states is how much, what uses are allowed. It also says setbacks as well, and the setbacks, the amount of impervious surface, those are all governed by zoning code. But the uses, under the zoning code, I don't see any place in the zoning code which says you can only you can limit the number of, say, plumbing supply shops or plumbers that are running out of here. I don't see in the zoning code you can do that because it's the use that you govern, not the number of uses.
So now I have to ask a question as relates to food. Yeah, well, you made me think. Under catering and food preparation, in our new world order of cannabis, is that defined as a
Now
food?
we're in a whole new world.
That's the problem. Are we, the ordinance that we have that deals with that kind of restricts where it could be anyway, and
Now we're entering the world of cannabis law.
oh,
And
Why you gotta do that, Steve?
that's a fair question, actually.
because it's an added item that I'm not so sure we want to open Pandora's box. That's,
No, it's a good question. First of all, under the statute, there's a limitation on the indoor growing size. There's I forget what it is, 3,000 or, I just can't quote off the top of my head the size of the indoor growing space, but there's a limit at the amount of, the size of a cannabis operation. You also have the right to create zone, to adopt, to amend the zoning code to meet, tell you where these sites are located,
and we did that.
yeah, we did that already.
And you're talking about a micro grower probably
Well,
inside there.
remember, there's manufacturing,
Yes.
there's distribution, there's,
All of
and
which
there's growing, yeah.
distribution could also now fit in these well, I don't know, maybe it can't fit in the definitions, but.
And that's the big problem with the cannabis law, is the fact that the state is basically, as we use the term force, it's occupied the field.
Yeah.
It's really put a limit on what the town can do, what municipalities can do in terms of zoning.
Well, wasn't it eliminated because of the uses we're allowing for this built these buildings.
Oh,
For
food
one
prep.
thing, if you look at the declaration
I don't know.
itself, the declaration actually does put a limit on it as well, because as I remember, the declaration, the only permitted uses under the declaration are storage and some manufacturing. In fact, I read it last night, and thought it was in the packet here, but the declaration, I did read the declaration. And there is private restrictions, and nowhere in the declaration do they say you can grow cannabis. And actually, to that extent, the declaration works in our favor, because the statute can only dictate what the government can control. It can't dictate what the private property owner can control. The declaration actually dictates what the private property owners can control. In this case, the declarant, the person who created the entity created the CIC. And we can I can look at it again, but I don't believe as I read the declaration, I don't think they would allow cannabis. That's something we could talk to the developer about too.
But to move forward tonight, is that a condition that we discuss that, or is that to consider, or how do we address it and move forward?
Well, I would be hesitant to make that a condition, because again, under the statute,
Okay.
we're not allowed to control location of uses. Well, up to a point. I mean, any use control that we create, we being the township, has to meet the statutory requirements. And the only real controls that were allowed are to deal with locations in terms of schools, public, playground facilities, recreational facilities that are visited by minors.
Well, Chad, just with what we're allowing with the office, workshop, storage buildings, it wouldn't fall into any of these categories anyway.
Wouldn't know.
Not those, but catering or food preparation. It's edible. It's unedible.
Hey, brownies
I-
and the baker.
Is this something we can ask the applicant about, or is
Sure,
this?
yeah.
We go what?
They are here.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to get through my head here. All of a sudden, we went from guys storing their boats and cars and working on them to now we got full-fledged businesses operating out here. So it's a big change from what we originally approved.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have any use that's permitted under the zoning code has to be allowed.
And I got my questions answered as far as changing the facade of the building. That's got my answer there. The only thing I don't know about is the ability to be if cannabis is now a food preparation site within, because that's not where we said we would have those, I
No.
believe. So maybe that takes care of it in and of itself.
Beth, you got any more
No, it's just
down a
seems,
rabbit hole ones we got to go to?
I'm sorry. I guess that, I was with you. I mean, I thought it was storage, and then we were allowing all these other things. But when you allow these other types of businesses, it came with, different types of restrictions, or, the parking was one, but, now it's, like you say, there's the HVAC issues and stuff. I mean, that wasn't where we started off.
The biggest advantage is there's no outside storage. There's not even room for outside storage.
Okay.
So
But
at
it's-
least everything's still contained in the building.
As Chad said, if it's allowed, it's allowed. It's
Something I also, is
But
there,
again, the declarant, the developer of it can privately limit the uses as well.
I just have one other question. Is it all inside garbage? There's no outside dumpsters? I don't,
he's shaking his head no.
I haven't looked into the site plan for that specifically. I can pull it up while you ask the applicant if you'd like to.
and the other one was a monument sign? Was that on the plan? I didn't see that either.
I don't see it on the site plan either.
That's kind of, I think that's part of our development or,
I have to tell you, when I read this online last night, and I know the declarant was part of what I read online last night, but I noticed the packet I printed out does not include the declaration for some Wish I had it with me.
I have the declaration in front of me if you'd like to view it.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
May I bring my laptop too? Okay.
In the meantime. Yeah,
All right, is that all you had for questions, Beth?
It was.
I thought all businesses had to have a monument sign.
What? Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure it's part of our, I don't know, it's town policy.
So currently my screen is
Be the first one that didn't.
They won't see any of this. Yeah.
Just drove by the other day, there's nothing there yet.
No, I know, but sometimes it goes up last.
I know.
It's easier.
I'm still a little confused about this part, though.
Now, like, for example, section 4 deals with the association membership. It said, whenever you create a common interest community, be it a condominium, townhouses, which are known as planned unit developments, or co-ops, you have to create an association that's required under the statute. So that's in section 4. And everyone who owns a unit automatically becomes a member of the association. And even if you're not an owner, if you're an occupant, you're still governed by the terms of the declaration.
So they can't opt out.
No, you can't opt out. In fact, I would suspect the developer, if there any units they lease out, will have terms in there saying you're obligated to conform with the terms of the declaration.
All right, board have any other questions?
One comment on your HOA question, when you said they disappear. I think, most HOAs involved are roads. And so when they were going to maintain their own roads and plow their own things, and then they disappear, and then it's into the township. I think that's where you were
Right.
heading with that. This is a private property development. I don't see where the township would ever be in there plowing roads, whether association or otherwise, so.
When actually with condominiums, even CICs, the association does more than just maintain roads. It also governs the uses. It has the right to enforce, levy fines, enforce the terms of the declaration. And, section 7 is a restriction on use of property. And that's the one that's, I think, the key. And I know 7.1 says personal storage purposes only. But, so, it does say that the units, common elements, and limited common elements shall comply with all ordinances of the township in which the condominium is located, which means that's why they have the right to do whatever, they have the right to make whatever use is allowed under our zoning code, but they have to conform to the zoning code.
That takes care of my question.
All right, I'm going to ask for a motion to open up for public comment.
I'll move to open the hearing up for public comment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Applicants here, I believe. You want to step up, name and address for the record, please, and
Jim French, N7429 1195th Street, River Falls, Wisconsin. It's a mouthful. Great discussion. Mr. Lemons hit on it a number of times here, but the CIC further restricts the uses that that will allow, the facility allows. It limits a number of things, from being able to modify anything regarding the aesthetics, which is not allowed. It enforces any sort of parking restrictions, and it further allows us to limit the occupants that purchase these units and occupy the units. The intention here is that in about 75 to 90% will be personal, hobby workshop spaces for just individuals, just storing their boats and stuff like that. We do run into a number of individuals that have small businesses that have just overgrown their garage, and that is our intended client. So when what we don't want is any sort of business entity that would come into the facility that would be different than that. So we talked with the Planning Commission about the potential of there's a business licensing requirement within the town, and so what we do, our normal practice is we'll pre-vet anybody that picks up the phone and it shows interest, and then we'll make sure that they're working through the city on a business licensing standpoint if there was any business aspect to it. So that's just another checks and balances to make sure the intended use aligns with the facility and aligns with the city. The one thing on I'd just like to add on the light industrial uses, we're not opposed if there's any reservation to eliminating this catering and food preparation studio as well. Again, our intended personnel in this is individual occupants and small business on a small scale, which
Does that relieve your issues with?
Well, it would. I'd just like it to be said that there would be no, you're not going to be growing cannabis in there. That's good enough for me. I think we have a small business, food business down on Otter Lake Road, not too far from here, that may outgrow his garage. And if he was looking for a place to put his products in there, I hate to say he's not eligible for it. But I just didn't want to get into the slippery slope of the new era of cannabis.
as do we. We do not as well.
And while we can't direct you to do so, because that would be that'd be kind of getting into gray areas, I don't think it would bother the town a whole lot if you simply forbid all cannabis.
Yeah.
And you can look at the cannabis statute. If you have a problem with what sections we're talking about, give me a call and I'll point them out to you.
Okay. Yeah, that's no problem at all.
And that would be under 7.1. That's 7.1 of the declaration defines what uses can be made of the units.
Perfect.
And then were you aware of, we normally require a monument sign on the property, designated your name and White Bear Township's logo?
I was not aware it was a requirement, but we would like to have one. It's not shown currently on our drawings, though.
Right, yeah, because I didn't see one when I was looking. And then refuge, is that all inside?
It is, yep. There's no.
Okay, so everybody's responsible for their own
That's
refuge?
correct.
But do you have a common carrier, like, I think just Republic? So they all have to have Republic, so we don't have 57 trucks going through there?
We don't have definition on restrictions of trash handling.
That's part of what, that's for us though, isn't it, Patrick?
Yep.
Yeah, you're gonna, they have
If
to
it
sign
is
with
yours, then we
Republic.
would.
Yeah, we use a common hauler
Yep.
for both recycling and refuge.
There's no common trash pickup or anything like that on the site.
And Beth, any other questions of the applicant?
No, thank you.
Steve?
No, I think he's answered the questions.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, did anyone else wish to speak to this? We got a room full of people. Somebody's got to be interested.
Benjamin Carter, 6128 Goodview Trail, Circle North, Hugo, Minnesota. I've been born and raised here in White Bear. Been a contractor for 27 years, and I'm one of the applicants that is applying to move into the first corner unit. I've been dealing with Evan Munson, and I've gotten a little mixed reviews as far as what we can do to the building. I did apply for a building permit, but it was my understanding that it had to go through this board to add lower windows. Because I plan on having the corner unit actually be a 2-story office with see-through, walking through to the other side of the building being strictly warehouse. And then, so I just want to clarify, I know I've gotten back and forth, I guess, what can be done with that. Whether the windows, so that is altering the building.
I think that's pretty much dependent on your developer also.
Okay.
I think I just heard him state they didn't want a lot of modifications to the buildings.
Yeah. And I've spoke with him firsthand on that, and I mean, between us, I mean, he was okay with it as long as the city was. And then as far as
You'll have to
HVAC,
talk to the city. This is the
The
town.
town.
Oh, we're getting touchy now.
Wondered who was going to say something.
We're a little sensitive on
We're a
that.
little sensitive, yes.
sorry. And then just to clarify too, you mentioned like HVAC pipes. I mean, they did say that we're allowed a mini split per unit. So that is condensers outside, and just want to make sure that that's,
Is that all just electric heat now, or what is it? Or is it in floor?
I don't think there's gas unit here. Yeah.
Okay.
So just curious where that would land.
Well, Chad, maybe that's a question for you. Do they have to abide by the developer that you can't modify the buildings?
One thing I didn't see when I read the declarations, normally these declarations have architectural control committees, which basically governs what changes you can make to the exterior of the building. And is it? Maybe I missed it. It is, Jim? Okay. I didn't see it last time when I read it, but it's pretty standard, so I was surprised when I, didn't see it. But so two things. First of all, and I'm not going to give you legal advice because I'm the town attorney. But in these declarations, normally, as Jim pointed out, there is an architectural control committee, which they run, the declarant and the association run. So you have to get their approval. Plus, you'd have to get the approval of the building inspector as well, building official.
Well, I'm sure Mike's review of this is going to be dependent on if the builder and the developer agree with it. His hands are tied till he knows if it's going to be allowed.
Yeah, normally the first step in these kind of things is to talk to what I call the ACC, get their approval, and then you talk to the building official. But you got to get approval of both.
That's bureaucracy at its best.
Yes. So the first process is to do this tonight with the permitted use and the subdivision, then the rest of it has to fall in place as we move through the process.
Sure. And then just one other concern, I guess, was I'm looking to purchase 4 units. So to make it as, one company, so it will be a bigger chunk, and I just don't want to be under the microscope. I know I've been dealing a lot with Evan Munson, I mentioned, and he, was stating, our business is just ran 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. We don't work after 4, we don't work weekends, so I don't plan on having a retail showroom, but if a customer wants to drop off a check, I'm not going to turn them around.
You going to do any
I just wanna
manufacturing
make
of
sure that I
cabinetry
have-
or millwork?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to do any manufacturing of cabinetry or millwork?
No, it's just pretty much just dry storage and office. But I just want to make sure that we're welcomed in that corner, and I don't want to, like I said, be under the microscope and you're doing this wrong or you're doing that wrong. So,
Well, this, with this amendment and this, if we okay this tonight, obviously that business is allowed. It's just a matter of the fine tuning if you can start changing the look of the building. That's going to be up to the developer and what your HOA is going to allow.
The architectural committee and then the town.
Yep.
okay, that's all I have for now.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. All right, I need a motion to close the public portion.
I'll move to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, does the board have any other questions?
No.
Feel comfortable with what we've got in front of us?
Yes, I'm comfortable.
I'm marginally comfortable.
Kind of with that on this.
Well, since it's our first one,
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to allow the permitted use standard permit amendment with the staff recommendations as noted in the packet. And with the notation that there, as the developer has said, that as it deals with the issue of cannabis, I'm perfectly
Is there a
happy.
major subdivision on there?
It is, that's the second part of it.
Okay.
We're doing them separately, I think.
All right,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right,
I'll also make the recommendation for the major subdivision request, recommend approval of the subdivision subject to the requirements in the TKDA amendments 1 and 2.
I'll second it.
all right, motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Good luck, gentlemen. All right, moving on. 8A, this is the park board recommendation for park board bylaws.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, in conjunction with legal, this is another cleanup from years past, and Chad, when you get a second, we we found that there wasn't an official resolution or ordinance that established the park board as an entity within the township. We are submitting this to you for your approval to get the park board officially recognized through ordinance, during which we would have to go through the appropriate ordinance process so that the park board can adopt bylaws that they've been working on. Because right now it's kind of inapplicable, if I'm not mistaken, Chad.
Well, I mean, yeah, formally the park board doesn't exist.
In our hearts, they do.
Well, I mean, remember, park board, all your commissions, and boards are strictly advisory. So that, their operation so far is just fine. But every other commission has an ordinance creating it.
So,
Were they not all created at the same
so
time?
when did it non-exist? How long back? From day one?
You know, I've gone through the ordinances, as far as I can tell, it's never existed. Okay, it's never been formally created, is a better way to put it.
And because it's an advisory body, that it has no
Legal
legal ramifications for it.
Unlike the planning commission, which is
Yes,
different. because in
required by statute.
They do have authority. So they had to be, that's a different situation, but yeah, your public safety commission, utility commission, they're all just simply advisory, so
Yeah.
it was okay, is what I'm saying.
I think a lot of this has to do with indemnification too.
Yeah, that too. Because it doesn't,
Because right now it's not,
yeah, it shields the members of the commission,
Yeah.
that's what it does.
and the township.
And the township too.
So by passing this in ordinance, that solidifies that part of it.
Boy, when I was on the park board, I had myself self-exposed, huh?
Yeah, for years, Steve.
That's a thought.
Well, luckily you didn't get yourself in any trouble.
None that I know of.
Yeah, right.
Park board's gotta go back, what, 80 years?
It's a long
Been
time.
around as long as I've been,
That's about 80 years.
Wouldn't they have created everything at the same time?
Apparently not.
Yeah, well, no, all your commissions appear to have their own separate ordinance.
It just seems like they'd all be in a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, you'd think so, but no.
No,
Each one's
okay.
done separately.
All right.
So the first step tonight on both of these is really the park board bylaws has got to be in a draft because we don't have an ordinance to actually exist first.
Actually, the first step would be simply to adopt the ordinance creating the park board, or actually reaffirming the park board. That's what you're really doing.
Reaffirming, okay.
I don't even know if we're doing that if it didn't exist in the first place.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I would say you are establishing your park board to adhere to required ordinance and statute.
99.
Formally adopting it. And then
So the
bylaws
actual
would
motion is
actually
not what
be
we're
designed to be
considering?
adopted by the board
Oh.
itself.
Town board, yep.
No,
Which is perfect timing. We exist and then we put bylaws in place.
Perfect.
All right. I don't have any questions since I was part of the.
Beth,
I
comments,
do not.
questions?
Nope.
Again, this is just kind of house cleaning.
It is.
It is.
The park board's done good work without this recognition, but now it puts it in a position where it's protected as well as the township.
So we can do these separately because they're two different
Sure.
items. I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 99, establishing the park board for White Bear Township.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And the second is, I'll make a motion to approve the park board bylaws, recognizing that the park board has worked really hard to put this document together, and it's really in a format that our other commissions could look at and adopt. It spells out the duties and responsibilities very clearly. So I'll make a motion to adopt the park board bylaws.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Subsequent to the establishment of the park board passing ordinance.
Oh, we didn't vote on that? Did I get too excited?
You can add that as a friendly amendment, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make that motion. And you get this way.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Just for the audience and folks at home, all of our commissions are strictly volunteer. I mean, planning, park, public safety, utilities, EDAB, these are all residents of the town that just volunteer their time. And the board relies heavily on their recommendations, because a lot of this stuff, there's just not enough time in the day to review all these things. So we take our residents and they spend their time and they review and go over these things. And by the time they get them finalized, like Steve said, they've done a lot of work on these things for us to just kind of highlight and approve. So,
And it's much appreciated.
you know, shout out to them. And I don't know, do we have any openings right now?
Yeah, we got a couple.
I mean, if you're even interested in getting involved in township operations, it's a great way to start. I think all of us started there. I started on planning commission, you started on planning commission.
Park.
Yeah, so you get a feel for what's happening in the town, so. All right, that concludes our regular agenda. We have no other.
Did we vote on this? Did we do?
Yeah.
We did? Okay, I'll make sure.
All right, open time. We still have a podium. Anybody got any comments, complaints? Bring it on.
For all those that live here, did you sign in at the back so we know who was here? Did everybody sign in tonight?
I did. Yes, I did.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
We need a name and an address.
Tom Futak. This is my wife, Clett, and also want to acknowledge Tim David behind me. I want to start a discussion. It is an honor to be able to stand here and kind of carry an idea forward that I think has some real import. Let me tell you a brief story, and then I've got an idea, and then I've got a request. So we'll make this quick. I've just come back from several months overseas, France, Switzerland, whatnot, and am keenly aware of the concerns people have, not just in my own country, but elsewhere regarding a current situation we are dealing with in terms of our politics and our economy. And one of the things that was asked of me as I was there was, so what, Tom, what are you going to do? And I said, I've got a choice, I guess, right? I can either be just an observer, I can be a victim, or I can be someone who will take a next step forward. I came back a couple weeks ago and said, okay, let's see what I can do. The question in mind has to do with Canada, and the question in mind has to do about the notion of neighbors. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, spent half my life in Canada, always considered it a next door neighbor. And lo and behold, my brother, who also was born and raised in Buffalo, in Skaneateles, New York, upstate New York, in case you've ever had a chance to see that beautiful spot, he had taken the initiative just a couple of weeks ago to propose to his city council that they address this issue of how to go ahead and open up the discussion with their neighbors to the north, to Canada, given the conditions of tariffs and the condition of the politics that were wounding that long-term relationship. And so what I decided to do is to carry that discussion here to this board. I passed out to you a copy of what is the resolution there in Skaneateles in New York.
See this?
Simply as an example of what they are doing, and that is a proposal that is in discussion. And as I promised my brother, it was something I would carry on here. The idea is this: that we would like to ask that this board look at the possibility of making a statement that is congruent with that resolution that you see in front of you. Primarily, the idea of that we need to make an expression, a direct expression, not just a nice intent, that out of deep regard, I'll use the quote from the Skinny Atlas statement, out of deep regard for and affirms our historical solidarity with its Canadian neighbors. We have a neighbor up north, and we've got a 547-mile backyard with them. And there are two things going on. One, we've got an issue of commerce and economy. We've got a situation where, given the current situation of the politics, both sides are going to be severely hurt economically. Since 2019, our economic exchange with Canada has grown by 49%. They're bringing about $9 billion across to us. We're go about $7.5 billion across to them. That's in jeopardy. Also in jeopardy is the question of travel and the resorts and the idea of tourism that already has suffered about 10%, according to Canadian folk and Americans, regarding real challenge about coming to the United States because of the concern about whether or not the difficulties crossing the border, and as we all know, sadly, what has been some horrible examples of people that have been detained rightfully or wrongfully. Well, with all those conditions at hand, I'm asking to start a discussion. It's a complex issue. It's not a question of politics. It's not a question of right and left. It's a question of right and wrong. And if we believe that our neighbor to the north is something which is substantially important to us as Minnesotans, not just because of the economy, but because of the righteousness of it and because of the notion of how we treat our neighbors, I'd ask that you consider that as a town board. And then in however you wish to do it, whether it's a commission or whatnot, there's nothing in it about cannabis. So I'd ask that you give it a read and a look. Now, where that takes it, I don't know. You mentioned commissions. You mentioned
Questions or comments on this?
we can go.
I'm married to a Canadian, so
So you're biased? Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Chair,
I have a lot of friends in Canada.
if I might remind the board, typically when we have open time, we don't take immediate action upon what's
I
being.
understand.
Okay. So what I would suggest is, rather than put you on the spot to consider this tonight, you take what has been given to you and we add that to official business on our next agenda, and you can weigh in on it. Chad, am I?
Yeah, that's correct. Or you could even
What,
I thought that's what he was asking.
Yeah, that's what I
for,
thought
for
too.
us
He's
to
asking for.
discuss. I was just asking.
Agreeing with that.
Okay.
There's
All good.
absolutely no way in which I'm asking for you to make a judgment
Okay.
whatsoever, other than to be willing to accept that this is the beginning of a discussion, and you take it from here, and
Steve,
I
comments?
add whatever I could.
My comment was going to be, does this fit to go into any of our commissions or board?
I'm not.
Or not, or is it an executive
Might
committee?
be more executive. I don't know if it
That's where I,
comes under any of our commissions.
after you take some time to digest it, I think it's worth a discussion.
I agree.
On the agenda for an exec meeting.
Sure.
Where we can talk.
And our executive committee is, we have that the last Friday or the fourth Friday of every month.
Sure.
Where we also don't take any action at those, but if the board considers it by consensus to go forward to an agenda at a regular board meeting, that's where it will take place.
And
Is
then,
there an opportunity for me or others to?
yes,
Sure.
that's where it
Absolutely.
would be. And then Chad, from a legal perspective, there's nothing, it's just like any other resolution. If we decided to make a resolution, legally,
Well, it's different. Most of your resolutions deal with township operations. and
Okay.
You have the power to do so. In this case, you're simply acting as citizens of the United States.
I mean, we've done resolutions in support of firefighters and in police unions and those things, similar to those.
Sure.
So
Almost like a proclamation, I guess.
I just like to say the process starts with citizens bringing things forward, so
It's where we're
thanks.
starting. Yeah.
Given the fact that this is going to require some discussion, the exec meeting is the proper place to do it because the board, anytime the board discusses any issue other than issues of security or property sales, has to be done in an open meeting.
Sure.
And that's the best time
I think what we'll do is we'll have staff contact you when this will go on an exec meeting agenda.
Thank
And
you.
you're more than welcome to sit in on it.
And obviously, the more people we get involved in the discussion, the better. So I'd love to see this thing ripple out as far as it goes.
Well, to start with, we need to just kind of maybe hit this at the surface before we get involved with having joint meetings on this, so. All
Understood.
right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks for coming.
All right, anybody else? Hearing none. I need a motion to receive agenda material and supplements.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I need a motion to adjourn at 8:10.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have